You're ready to outline and script your first few YouTube videos, but you don't even know what that's supposed to look like. I spent my last week answering just that, so grab a pen and a paper, settle in, and get ready to take some notes. My name is Rachel, and while I don't pretend to be an expert in this area, if you've been following along, you already know that I'm sharing my real-time, step-by-step process to creating a YouTube channel. This week's intentional step was all about outlining and scripting the first few videos. Last week, we spent some time finding and planning some video ideas, and now this week we're going to go ahead and outline and script them. But what even goes into scripting and outlining a video, you ask? Well, I'm here to tell you what I've discovered. I've researched, I've read, I've watched video after video after video in hopes to try to figure out what the best method is and the most important elements needed for creating an outline and a script for a YouTube video. And here's what I found. Now, while the content that you plan to produce heavily dictates what goes into each of these sections, I found that there are 3 consistent sections to any good YouTube video. And here they are. Part 1, intro. Part 2, content. And part 3, conclusion or call to action. Now let's break them down. Part 1, the intro. The intro is where you've got to have a hook. You might introduce yourself, and you're probably going to let your viewer know what's in it for them. Why should they even watch your video? All of that is going to be summed up in a very short amount of time. But the trickiest part of the intro is the hook. So we're going to talk about that for a minute. Think about a hook just like you would think about a fishing hook. When it's effective, it grabs you and pulls you in. That's how you want the hook to your YouTube video to be. Now, there are several ways that you can create a hook, and I think it really depends on the type of content that you're creating, on what you're going to do. But what I've discovered are that there are a few common hook types. For instance, one hook might include an interesting fact that's intriguing to your viewer. It might include a question that your viewer might be having and is curious about what the answer is. If you're creating educational content, you might want to start with a statistic or a fact. If you're creating something entertaining, you might want to start off with a funny clip from the video that you've actually recorded. Bottom line, whatever you use, your hook has to be something that pulls your viewer in to want to keep watching. So take this video, for instance. I'm going to imagine that my ideal viewer is in the same spot that I was 1 week ago, not knowing exactly what belongs in a YouTube video structure. Then I ask myself, what would spark the curiosity of this particular viewer to want to keep watching? What benefit would they have to continue watching the video that I've created? That's where the hook was developed. Do you remember it? It went something like this. You're ready to outline and script your first YouTube videos, but you don't even know what that's supposed to look like. Well, I did just that, and I'm going to share it with you now. Meaning that the viewer doesn't need to problem solve any longer, because I'm telling them right away that if this is what you're looking for, I've tried to solve that problem, and I'm going to show you what I did. And that's the hook that keeps my viewer wanting to continue to watch. That brings us to part 2, the content. This section I like to think of as the meat of the video. It's where the main feature information is contained. I'm not going to really spend a whole lot of time here on this section, because I do believe that depending on the type of content that you're putting out, that this middle meat part is going to look a little bit different. However, in a nutshell, the important thing is that you want to weave a little bit of storytelling in here. So you want to give the viewer something, but you also want to make it genuine and authentic by adding some sort of story. So that might be a personal story, that might be a story about someone else, or it might just be an example of something that connects to a particular point in your content section. Use the answers to the following questions to help you create your content section. Question 1, who, think about your ideal viewer, wants what? That is, what problem are you trying to solve for your viewer? Question 2, why do they want it? Question 3, why don't they already have it? And question 4, how can you help them get it? When you consider the answers to these questions, weave in a little story or an example, you've got your content section. So let's take this video, for example. When I think about the answers to those particular questions, these are some of the things that I've come up with. My ideal viewer is looking for a good system to help them create YouTube videos. The reason they don't already have it is because they're new and they're looking for ideas. And the way that I can help them get it is by creating a video that gives them the exact points and system to follow in order to structure their video. During my content section, I decided myself personally to break that section down into 3 main parts and then tell a little story after each part, because this helped me keep to my focal points, make sure that I was concise, and above all, it kept me on track. So you see what I've done there? I've given you an explanation and I've weaved a little bit of my own personal story into it. That's exactly what you're going to do in this content section. Finally, part 3 is conclusion and or call to action. This is where we wrap things up. It's short and sweet and it closes out your video. Through my research, I've seen some consistent comments that talk about trying not to summarize what you've already said. Now, I know it kind of feels like it goes against everything that maybe you've learned in school or writing, where when you have a conclusion, you wrap things up by tying them back around and summarizing what you've just said. But here's the thing. When someone comes to your video to solve their problem, once you start to summarize what you've already said, it almost signals to the viewer that I'm not going to learn anymore. Things are wrapping up. I'm going to move on to the next video. And of course, that's not what you want, because this is a section where you are going to give your viewer a call to action. You want them to stay to the very end because you're going to ask them to do something. You don't want them to click off of your video before you've asked them or given them the call to action. So what's a call to action? This is where you might offer your viewer a next watch video. This might be where you ask them to like or to subscribe or to share a video or to click a link inside of the description. When you're first starting out, your call to actions might look a lot the same. When you're first starting out, you're probably not going to have links to a next video to watch because you're just in the creating process. When you're first starting out, you might not have any links in your description, but you can always ask for a like, a comment, to subscribe. But I need you to be careful here because it is really important that you give your viewer a reason why they should be doing this. So don't just say, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Most people aren't going to do that. You need to give them a reason to like or to give you a thumbs up. Give them a reason to share your content. Give them a reason to subscribe to your channel. And a side note here, although your conclusion is an awesome place to put your call to action, and you absolutely want to do that, your calls to action can actually be weaved throughout your entire video. And this is the beauty of outlining and scripting. When you have an outline or a script, you know exactly where you're going to say what you're going to say. So this gives you the ability to look through your outline, to look through your script, and to get an idea of where you can put in another call to action, where you can naturally weave in a question to ask your viewers to comment, where you can naturally weave in a reason for them to give your video a thumbs up, where you can naturally weave in a place for them to click on a link in your description box. And now that takes us to scripting. So let's take a look at, based on our outline, what our script might look like. And I'm actually going to leave you a link to the PDF of what I'm about to show you, so that if you want to download it, you want to take a look at it, it will be right there for easy access for you. All right, so let's take a look at this. We've got outlining your YouTube video. This is the process that we just talked about and that we're going to follow for scripting purposes. Okay, so we're going to start off with your intro, as you know. This is going to include your hook. You are probably going to introduce yourself here, and you're going to tell the viewer what it is that they're going to get from your video. The next section is content. What problem are you solving? What's the main topic takeaway in this section? As I mentioned before, I like to put these in a few different points. Of course, you can have as many points or you can break it down in any way you want, but I like to have a few specific sections that I can weave a little story in between, and this really helps keep me on point. You're going to take this big section because it's the biggest section of your video, and you're going to break it down into some sort of sizable chunks for you. And what I want you to do is think about the value that each one of these chunks or each one of these points has for your viewer. If there's no point and it isn't helpful for your viewer, it probably doesn't need to be in the video. And then finally, you've got your conclusion which is your call to action. And I've listed a bunch of calls to action below. So let's take a look at them. We've got like, subscribe, share, watch this video, a video that you've already created that you're leaving a link to or a card to in your video. You might ask them to leave a comment, or you might ask them to click on a link in your description, whether that's an affiliate link or a digital product that you've created. Whatever it is, it's something that's going to benefit your viewer, but also benefit you because it keeps them either on your page or it keeps them wanting to come back for more. Please remember though, when you are giving a call to action, it is so important that you give a reason why. The benefit has to be to your viewer, not just to you. Of course, you want likes and you want subscribers, but if you're not giving value to your viewer, if you're not giving them a reason why it's important for them to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, then they're very likely not going to do it. So you have to give them a reason. Now you're going to take that script that I've just given you and you're going to fill it in. So you're going to fill in your hook. You're going to fill in your intro. You're going to fill in what the benefit is, etc. And as you go in and you fill in each of those points, then you've created your script. At this point, hopefully you already have your title and your thumbnail in mind and created. If not, check out my last video where we talked about the importance of choosing keywords. Of course, this is going to help you with your scripting because those keywords should be sprinkled throughout your entire video naturally. And if you do your keyword research after the fact, it's really hard to put those in the video. All right, so you've got your outline and now you're going to script, but you can script in one of two ways. You're either going to script bullet point form or you're going to script word for word. Now there are pros and cons to both methods, and I'm going to talk about that in my next video. And of course, this is where I'm going to tell you that if you haven't already subscribed, you should do that now so that you get notified when that video comes out. But in the meantime, I have tried both methods several times. And although I do have a preference, I'm going to keep that for the next video. But I will tell you that there is no wrong way to do it. But what I suggest for you is that you try out both ways and see what works best for you. Part of it might depend on the type of content that you are creating, but also part of it might just depend on who you are and what you decide that you like because it's best for you. So although the next video will tell you all about the pros and cons of both methods, you're really going to have to decide in the very end what you think works best for you. But of course, now I'm curious. If you already create content, which do you prefer? Do you prefer bullet point scripting or word for word scripting? And tell me why, of course. But also, if you haven't started creating yet, which method do you think that you'll prefer? The word for word method or the bullet point form? Tell me now. If you found anything valuable or inspirational in today's video, please give me a thumbs up and let me know. Of course, don't forget to check last week's video on thumbnails and titles and download in the description of the simple way to outline and script your YouTube video. Until next time, trust your own journey.